Happy Friday and almost Shabbat Shalom, you guys. I hope you're doing well. We're here for our weekend reflection message, and I'm excited to report that I'm wearing a dress that I bought when I was like 12 at a head shop in the early mid 90s. So this is like my own vintage baby doll dress. And I always was obsessed with this graphic, with this fabric of all the butterflies. And I almost cut it up one time because I wanted to eventually make like cool quilts. But I haven't gotten into my quilting phase yet. I'm just a crafter who hoards supplies. Holler at me in the comments from my other craft people. It's a sickness. We have all these supplies that just come with us everywhere through our lives. And we can't let go of them. But yeah, so this dress, it almost was cut up before. And it's been in like a little trunk, and I still thought that I would never actually wear it again. And lo and behold, I can still put it on, and the 90s are back. So I can wear my own vintage because I can never throw anything away. All right, let's get into the reading. So we have, this is not, a lot of times our readings are like super continuous from day to day, week to week, but it's like a little bit of like a let's interrupt this message for a brief announcement kind of a message today. So from the Radiant Sun Oracle, we have the moon in Sagittarius, which is optimism. I love this little gay scene here. Love it. And followed by Jupiter in Virgo, which is patience. Give anything for this dress. And finally, we have Saturn in Saturn in Libra, which is devotion. Underneath optimism, we have Seven of Swords reversed. Underneath patience, we have Page of Swords. And underneath devotion, we have Four of Cups. So, it looks like it's getting stormy. I hope I can take my walk still today. Yesterday, at the very end of my walk, when I got out of the woods and back to the park where I drove to down the street, it started pouring down raining. So I got nice and saturated with rainwater, and the rainwater washed my hair, and that was nice and fun. But I would like to just have a dry walk today if I get that. All right, so we've been in this Mercury retrograde, and we've been in these 3 difficult weeks. And now we are in a subset portion of time in this portal called the 9 days of Av. And so these 3 weeks kind of straddle Cancer season into the beginning of Leo season. Starting with that recent new moon on Tuesday, the Gregorian calendar called it Cancer new moon. According to the Kabbalistic calendar, that would be considered the Leo new moon. It launches the Leo lunar cycle, the Leo month, right? So we just had this new moon, which starts a period of time called the 9 days of Av, which are the first 9 days of Leo, leading up to the destruction of the temple. Or the initial destruction of the temple. And there is some imagery that's very poignant in the description of the destruction of the temple, which is that the temple curtains were torn and they actually poured forth blood. Like they bled like a miracle, like when like statues of Mary cry blood, or statues of Jesus cry blood, or have the stigmata like bleeding or whatever. It was like that. But what that means on a symbolic level is that it represents where we misdirect our energy and focus, and how that leaks out energy, or how we're wasting our energy in putting it into the wrong things, right? And so that can apply in any category or area of your life, right? If you want to have certain healthful results, you need to eat certain foods and avoid others. If you want to have a mobile, flexible, healthy, energetic physique, then you've got to move, you've got to stretch, you've got to strengthen. If you want to have healthy relationships, you can't spend your time with toxic people. If you want to build your money and eventually generate wealth, you can't squander it on wasteful things, right? So, even down to what we pay attention to and what we use our brain chemistry on every day, it just depletes us. It depletes our willpower. It depletes our life force. And it also, on an energetic and spiritual level, it depletes our creative potency, our manifesting power, our magnetism. So over these few weeks, we are sort of being shown really these opportunities that are triggering, but what they're here to show us what needs to be healed, because we can't heal our own darkness. First of all, the Creator has to help us do that, but we have to be active participants, or else the Creator won't do it for us. But even the Creator cannot help us heal what remains concealed. So we are being antagonized during this period as a favor, so that we can see the parts of ourselves and the parts of our lives that need more attention, that need more care, that need change, that need transformation, that need evolution. And so it's not advisable to actually have a reactive reaction during this time and start making choices and decisions and pulling I'm gonna pull the trigger here, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, I'm gonna because this is like energetically the ingredients during this time, the stuff that you'd be using to manifest with is tainted with this negative energy. So during this 3 weeks is more about observation and learning and feeling and processing and going deeper and exploring and following things back. Where did they originate? Where does this come from? How can I dismantle this? How can I reprogram this in myself now? So this is about observing, sifting through the intelligence that we find about ourselves and decoding that, deciphering it, discerning, okay, what does this mean? What do I want to do from here? And so you may be slowly but surely feeling a greater sense of clarity and a greater sense of direction. And you might even be getting little hints from synchronistic messengers or things that you've been noticing as maybe like divine guidance in the next step or in the direction of the next step. If you're feeling a little bit hopeful and a little bit optimistic and something feels aligned and it feels authentic, or it's in integrity with everything else, and it's not reactive, so it's like you don't want to do things while you're triggered during this time, but wait for things to settle, and then you'll notice what sticks, and you'll have more and more clarity as you become less emotionally charged. And then on the other side of this portal, I think we will have a deep hunch or a great sense of confidence in the next steps to take, or at least something that we are willing to take a risk on and explore. Right? We may not have a guaranteed, solid, straightforward answer, but that's not how life is, right? Sometimes it asks us to reach out, see if we can, risk a mistake by giving an answer to a riddle, following that, seeing if it's right, pivot if it's not. Sometimes that's all we get. Life is giving us riddles, and it's like, all right, see if you can decode this, see what you can do with it. It gives us a greater sense of participation and fulfillment, rather than, we see what happens with kids whose parents do all their homework and everything for them. And that doesn't teach them, it doesn't give them anything. It actually thwarts their progress, right? So the Creator is trying to help us out, but we've got to do the work. We've got to do the legwork. So we have optimism and Seven of Swords reverse. So with optimism, we've got the moon in Sagittarius. So that speaks to having a greater insight and a greater kind of vantage point on an understanding of our feelings and our philosophy around our feelings and the consciousness surrounding those feelings, and things that we might want to explore and try, and everything is kind of expanding. Our consciousness is expanding, our understanding is expanding. It's helping us heal some feelings and emotions and self-concept, which is then allowing us to broaden our material world, because I think we're broadening our horizons and we're willing to try new things, right? So perhaps during this time, if not already, you may have gotten a little piece of advice, something that you may be skeptical about, and it may be because of all the times that you've tried before, you're starting to feel a little bit cynical and a little bit flatlining. You know, you're like, another thing, come on. But this thing might be the component that you need that will support the other things. And you might think, oh, I'm buried in this passion project and all I need is another thing to learn or do. But what if you could redirect a little bit of your energy into something that could maybe actually free up more time in the long run, or give you more resources for that passion project? So when you look at the bigger picture, maybe that's something to consider. So the Seven of Swords reverse indicates that you might have gotten actually like news, or like good news or good advice, or insight that's worth paying attention to. There's something that you can draw from those ideas, right? And so, you know, I know for myself, there have been a few little Easter eggs recently that kind of came together that felt unrelated, that gave me an idea for myself, you know, because even though I'm starting the Substack and I do this content here, I still have to work at a restaurant and make money. And I can't bank on the fact that like my Substack is just going to be something that's going to support me for the rest of my life. I'm still eventually going to have to find another trade or something that I can do for money, because you can't, you know, do something like waiting tables forever. So eventually I'm going to have to learn a new thing again, right? And so, you know, there was something presented, an idea that kind of came forth, and I was like, it's already in the realm of what I kind of get up to. And so, yes, in a way that I'm initially like rolling my eyes, but it always seems to come back. This theme, this idea always kind of represents itself to me every few years or so. And so I'm like, you know, maybe that is like a thing that wouldn't drain me of all of my energy and creative resources and time, but that maybe I could actually pull that off, and it would make a whole container for everything else too. So again, if you have something that it's like you have a little thing that's been starting to show up and it wasn't on your radar before, don't necessarily dismiss it as a distraction. This could be an indication of something that could help expand, because we have optimism and we have potentially good advice here. Also in our recent lunation workshop, that new moon workshop from a couple of days ago, there was a card. I think it was the final outcome was a favorable partnership. It may not have been final outcome, but it was one of the, you know, obviously all the cards are significant, but it was, you know, in a significant position. But it made me think it wasn't necessarily just about a romantic partnership, but it was something, an added component or some kind of thing that's going to be profitable. It's going to be good for us. So we have this card, Jupiter in Virgo, and we have Page of Swords. Now, this Jupiter in Virgo is like expand on your ability to organize and execute a plan, and also keep the consciousness as a consciousness of sharing for the greater good and not just for the self alone, right? Keep in the mindset of being a sharer and being positive and doing things for the highest good, but also like, because that aspect of Virgo is very prominent, and it's very prominent too in the North Node right now. but also that part of Virgo that's able to kind of assess a situation and be really detail oriented and be impeccable with just like, I love Virgos. I do. They deserve to be as haughty as they want to be because they really do take care to, you know, be accurate and correct and pay attention to detail. It's not that they're always right, but they do try to do things in a fine and good and proper and prudent manner. And they try to do things right, and they do things well, and they're organized, and they're great at execution, and they're great at like just, you know, categorical things that they can organize and execute, coming up with systems and following through. They're amazing. They're like the perfect combination of earth and Mercury and air, and like the fiery air that gets ideas moving. So I love Virgos. Right. So what do we know about the Page of Swords? That, yeah, they love getting into a thing and digging in and being the little like detective, or, you know, the little sleuth. But they can also be a little bit haphazard because they're kind of immature, and they come out, you know, swinging the sword kind of like, you know, crudely and, you know, kind of haphazardly. So I would say don't like slow down, because even say an overnight success doesn't really happen overnight. Even get rich quick schemes don't promise immediate results, right? So the thing that you're working on, that passion project in the background, you will have more patience with that if it has more support. And you know, I remember, I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert maybe said in the book Big Magic, not to put pressure on your baby to support you, but rather support your baby. And that baby being that creative passion, or that thing that you feel your soul is needing to do, but it needs support. You know, and also somebody brought up something really important recently. I think her name is the Goth Mother. She's like a goth girl on Instagram. She's really funny. She's like Slavic, I think, and she's just great. She's always just giving her point of view on different things. But she was just talking about how we don't need to like monetize every single thing that we enjoy doing, right? And so sometimes, though, we do need money to support those things that we're doing. So don't feel like you are selling out or failing yourself if you need like a venture that makes that generates an income to support something that you care about, right? So I think this is about being patient and just having, you know, just being in it for the long haul, you know, in both cases. And the new thing, be patient with that thing too. It may not take off immediately. So don't be in a hurry and start doing things haphazardly. Go about it the right way, right? Give it a real shot. So I think that this is good. It's just take your time. Don't expect something to give you immediate results. Just maintain like optimism. Come at it from a sense of playfulness. And so Saturn in Libra, the devotion card, it depicts like a bird that's looking at its mate who's fallen down, and it won't leave, right? It won't leave that behind. And so the Four of Cups card with this, in relation to the rest of the reading, it feels like we might be missing an opportunity because we feel like we have other things that we need to prioritize, and it feels like these things are going stagnant, and we're just like, what do I do to get these things going? What do I do to make it work? And instead the universe is like, hey, over here there is an idea, there is something that can help you. But you might be too cynical to think that you have time, or that you should divert a little bit of attention or resources over here. So don't dismiss the possibility of a good opportunity because you're so devoted to these other things. In fact, let that devotion allow in some more support to help you, that will give you more resources to go deeper and have more patience with these things, and not expect them to yield results according to your expectations, right? Give yourself a chance. So I think that, yes, I think that for me personally, when considering this thing to juggle in, my concern is, am I following a shiny carrot and being distracted from what's really important? And I think it's always good to consider that might be a possibility. But again, we can practice awareness as we are looking into something, and we can be willing to be wrong, right? Just be curious, take a chance. See how it goes. You don't have to commit yourself to something for the rest of your life. You can, get your toe in and see if that feels like it's taking you in a good direction, or if it feels like it's distracting you and taking you in a wrong direction. All right. So I just feel like there is an opportunity that we may not be seeing because we're just sort of like in a sullen rut and like just kind of focused on what's in front of us and how, wow, nothing's giving me enough. I wish I could draw blood from this stone, when in fact there may be just another element that you haven't considered that you could add into the situation that would alleviate a lot of the pressure on these cups to be giving. And then when you put the pressure off of things a lot of times and you surrender, then that's when, the energy starts to flow and the manifestation starts to happen, because you've been able to surrender and you're not holding on like this with needy, desperate, clinging energy. You surrender, you trust, and you let go. And so then everything can flow. All right, that is all for today. We'll be back tomorrow night for Secret Teachings of Jesus. We'll be back in the Gospel of Thomas. All right, till then, see ya. Looks like we might be sprouting some new ideas. Have you received any guidance, feedback, or helpful advice that you planted in fertile soil that may be beginning to crack with germination? You might have received the advice you've been praying for. Collect the data you've been receiving about your current situation. Now decipher the clues and codes of the intelligence you've gathered. There are likely new ideas that you will develop alongside something that already exists. It's time to juggle. The new thing may be the component you need to channel support for the whole. Remain patient, diligent, and consistent. Even get-rich-quick schemes don't promise immediate results. This may, in fact, be a legitimately good opportunity that we don't want to miss out on because we think we should be focused on other things. What if, after the initial work involved, it creates more space for the other desires to flourish? Some plants grow best when they are planted alongside a companion plant.